Welcome everyone. Here we are. What are we doing again?
This is a show about skydiving. No, it's not. It is money, sex, and kids.
Money, sex, and kids.
Yes.
Yeah, money, sex, kids. The three things that all of us deal with and probably argue about from time to time, right? The money thing, the sex thing, and the kid thing. And today we're talking about kids specifically.
Now, disclaimer, are we experts?
No, and we've never claimed to be. So the haters out there that are like, since when are you guys the experts? Never said we were. We're just taking you through our journey because I think that many of you are going through the exact same thing right now. Here's the thing. Nobody talks about it, right? Everybody puts out this illusion of life is perfect always, and we all are experts and we're pros at living life. We're not. None of us are.
And I think sometimes people, they do a great job, but they try to be so PC that nothing actually, the message just doesn't even get out there.
No.
And it's funny is like what we say like on social media in public is so like, oh, you know, it's so soft. And then when we're with our good friends, we're like, oh my gosh, why aren't we talking about this all the time? So that's why we're doing this one today about kids, because we've had this conversation with so many of our close friends, and it's a touchy subject. It's very touchy. But I thought, you know what? We're going to talk about it on the show because if we're talking about our friends and they feel the same way, then I think a lot of people can relate. And I'll just come out. It's about the word bully.
It's about, yes. Okay. And that word is used often, a lot in society these days because it's so prevalent, right? It's so apparent. And I think it's more prevalent and apparent now than say when we were kids because there's another layer of a way to bully. We have social media, we have the internet, we have all of these different ways to be involved in a kid's life or to touch a kid's life versus just going to school and being around the schoolyard bully or the one kid that's mean at school. There's just so many different layers. So it's out there and our kids are subjected to it a lot more than ever before.
So I'm going to kind of take you through a timeline just to kind of set the stage here. So
only because it's relatable, because if you're our age and you have kids or you're older, a little younger, you lived this at one time.
So our parents, my dad tells this story often. So my dad graduated high school in 1970. So he was about 10 years old, 12 years old, 1962, 63. All right, he grew up in Chicago, and growing up in Chicago, and I think it was like that across the country, that when you were that age, growing up that era, that teachers, if they didn't like the way you were behaving, you would get a smackdown, right?
You get swatted.
And no one thought that was crazy back then. They thought that was just the way it was, and that's the way it was. So my dad tells a story about one time he was talking during a test, and the teacher grabbed his head and smacked it against the desk, right? And he went home and cried and told his dad. His dad did two things. His dad first told his son, my dad, my grandpa, said, did you provoke that? It wasn't, he didn't go right to, oh my gosh, how dare the teacher do that? He was mad about that as well, but he first wanted to know from my dad, did you do something to provoke that? Are you at all fault? Okay, that's key number one. And then number two is my grandpa went to the school and, you know, you hit my kid, I hit you type thing. That was in the 60s.
Again, we don't do that these days.
No, but the point is, if that happened today, right, that would be like front page of the USA Today newspaper, right? So fast forward to when we were in school, you know, it's a little bit different. I wasn't, you know, teachers were not allowed to hit us in school, and I think most of us watching this probably don't remember getting spanked or swatted or hit. Maybe somewhat, but we did not, right? And I think my parents would have been totally okay with me getting a beating for acting out of line.
Well,
right?
you were quite the kid.
I remember when I was in school, I misbehaved in class, and in Phoenix, when school starts in September or August, it's 110 outside. And I remember my teacher took my desk and she put it outside, and I spent the entire day outside, and I came home with the sunburnt. And my parents did not go to school to say, how dare you treat my son like that, because they knew that I did something to provoke it. It's a whole shift. And now I think we get to where we're at today, and it's if every little thing happens to our kids, and we love our kids, right?
We think automatically it could never be their fault.
It can never be their fault. It must be the school's fault, and we need to go there and punish the school or yell at the school or punish the bully, right, which we're going to get to, or punish their parents for treating our kids like however.
Now, use common sense when you're listening to us talk about this. Okay, there is a time and a place. We get it. Like, there are situations out there, and we've seen them on the news, and there is a teacher that way overutilized their power and they did something horrible and wrong. We're not saying that that's okay. So please don't miss that. Please don't think or change what we're saying around to think that that's what we're agreeing with or saying. We're just showing you the shift of time over the course of the last 30 plus years.
Which I think you can completely relate to. And remember, I'm not going to sugarcoat this to make this PC the way that it's supposed to be. I'm going to talk
That
about,
was just the way it was
that's
then.
the way it was. So
Okay.
the reason why I bring all of this up is there's a lot, this word bully. When I was a kid, I don't even remember using that word bully, okay? But now I know that there's this shift where the word bully is used all the time. And it's almost like everybody now has become some kind of target of bullying.
Or is a bully.
And is a bully. So one of the things that I've learned from my dad, and now I've learned from, you know, myself, I was, you know, I'll admit, there was things that happened to me in middle school that I would consider bullying, and I'll share it.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
So,
say it.
I mean, you know what? You guys are gonna laugh at this, and I'm okay with it. All right? This is Transparency Week, and you guys are gonna be okay with it. So I was scrawny in junior high, and I wrestled in junior high, and my weight class was 93 pounds. Okay, so I was a 93-pound seventh grader, not getting a lot of girls in seventh grade. Right?
No.
And so there was a kid. I don't even want to say his name because
Don't.
I want to say his name, but I'm not going to.
No, come on, you're better than that. Stop.
So anyway, he was like a 185-pounder kid, and he thought it'd be fun to throw me in the trash can. Now, not the circular trash can, those like bifolding doors where you could throw somebody in there and you could shut the lid.
The dumpster.
The dumpster. I was thrown in the dumpster, okay?
Were you so scared?
No, I was pissed. He threw me in the dumpster in front of chicks, in my singlet, my 93-pound frame.
Was this leaving wrestling practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so finally, they let me out of the trash can, and I got on the bus, and I had grass on me because I just sat in the trash can for.
And you smelled probably.
I was embarrassed. But long story short, I came home and I told my dad.
Okay.
Right. Now, did my dad go to the school? Did my mom want to go, you know, talk to the parents?
Of course they wanted to.
Of course they wanted to, but would that have been in my best interest?
No, because it would not help the situation.
It would have made it worse. Right?
Yeah.
And I think I commend my parents for doing that because, you know, being in seventh grade, it would have made total sense for them to go to the school and say, this kid threw our son in a trash can and go to the parents and everything. But my dad took me in the backyard and he showed me how to defend myself. And, you know, however you want to, you know, picture that in your mind, he showed me how to fight, right? He showed me how to fight. And he told me, he said, Chris, if you don't correct this on your own, it's going to continue to happen over and over and over again. And he was exactly right. And I know a lot of people are watching this right now and they're like, oh my gosh, your dad's teaching you to hit other kids? No, absolutely not.
You're missing the point again.
He's not teaching me to go out there and start beating the crap out of people. At 93 pounds, that's impossible, right?
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is he taught me that if a kid was going to pick me up again and throw me in a freaking dumpster in front of girls in seventh grade, that it wasn't going to happen on my terms. I was going to stop it using some kind of physical force. When you're 93 pounds, my dad showed me a couple places you could punch people above the belt where they no longer pick on you. Okay, so that's where we want to go with this is how do we talk to our kids about bullies and how do we have them, you know, how do we show them to defend themselves? Now she, female, right? She doesn't even get this.
No.
So we've had these long conversations about this because we're opposite on this.
Totally opposite on that. And my perspective is, well, why would we then try to, you know, stop that situation by making it worse and by telling our kids to fight back? I get part of it. It just, it makes me uncomfortable. Now, what makes me also uncomfortable though, and what I don't want to do, but oftentimes I want so badly to do, I want to go mom and bear on you know, any kid that's messing with my kid or making them cry or him coming home saying, so-and-so said this to me or pushed me down or whatever. And so that has been a big, big learning point for me is that I can't do that. I think there's a time and a place for that, right? Everything is relative. There's certain situations that might call for that, but every single thing, if your kid comes home every day and is like, you know, so-and-so said this to me, so-and-so didn't like my shoes. Yeah, that is awful. Kids are mean. Nothing has changed since 30 some years ago to now. There are mean kids out there. There are mean kids that turn into be mean adults. And that is going to happen. But I think our job and our biggest goal as parents is to teach our kids to have confidence in themselves and to be able to stand up to themselves and to not be so influenced by what somebody says to them. You know, they're malleable, their brains absorb everything. But when somebody says something to your kid, you know, oh, you're ugly, or I don't like those shoes you wear, or why do you do that? Like, we need to teach them to be strong enough to know that those words mean nothing. It bounces right off of them. Their worth is not affected by the fact that some stupid kid that who knows what their parents are doing to them came and said that to my kid, right? And we can't go in and rescue them every second of the day.
Every time we rescue them, it feels good because
For
we feel
us,
as parents that we're doing the right thing. And what I'm finding out is we're weakening them, because we have an episode 2, we talked about we want our kids to feel pain. We want our kids to also be problem solvers, right? And if we solve their problems for them, then are they really growing, right? Because they're going to be adults sometimes, right? And they're not going to be able to call mom and daddy and say, hey, mommy, daddy, this is happening to me. You know, I need you to do it for me. We need to create resources for them to do on their own.
But I think the biggest starting point to get to that is to create like the safest haven, safest zone you can is inside your home, inside the walls that we call home with us as parents. Like, they need to be able to come home every day and share what's going on without any fear of, you know, if they've done something wrong and they know that there will likely be a consequence, and yes, they're going to get in trouble, they're going to make mistakes, but they need to be able to tell us everything and still not be afraid of us. Like, and not be afraid of us, like, hating them. And I just want them to be able to share everything with us. Then we deal with the consequences.
Sure.
But I don't want them to be so afraid to never share anything with us that we miss out on all of that.
Yep. Like, where we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So recently, this is a couple months ago,
Yeah.
Our son Carter, he's 3rd grade, 8 years old, and he comes home and he's not telling us, but our daughter Kaylee, who rides the bus with him, says, hey, Dad, somebody pushed down Carter at school today. So I look at him, I'm like, hey, did somebody push you down? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, is this the first time this has happened? He goes, no, this has happened a couple times. And I'm like, so what happens when you get pushed down? He goes, I just stand up. And I'm like, but it keeps happening, right? So here, Andrew and I are looking at each other, and first thing, what was your first instinct?
I was like, I'm going to the school.
You're going to the school. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you're not going to the school. I'm like, that's the last thing that we need to do. And 2 reasons. One is the school is overwhelmed. We've learned that.
Yeah.
They are not, it's not that they don't want to help your kid,
They
right?
do.
They just don't have the resources. They're overwhelmed. There's so many bully calls that they just can't do it all, right? And honestly, as parents, we have a little bit of responsibility. So I took Carter home, and I said, show me how he pushes you down. And he showed me. And I said, okay. And so we went in the backyard, and it was like deja vu with my dad and I. Now, I didn't teach him that he should go out and be boxing every kid in school, but I taught him that if a kid grabs his arm or a kid gets ready to shove him down, there's consequences for that kid trying, right? And I told him if this happens again, you know, you can defend yourself. But I was very careful, very careful. I did not give him a hall pass to go pick fights, all right? He's a little like I was. He's not a big kid anyway. But I told him, I'm like, if you go and pick a fight, you are going to get into a lot of trouble with
Like
me and the school. But if you're about to get pushed down, right, and you defend yourself, he right away says, Dad, I'll get in trouble at school. I said, yes, you will. Absolutely you will.
Because the school has a job.
They have a
I
job,
get that.
But you won't be in trouble at home because I want you to defend yourself. And I said, sometimes you have to pay the price, right, to grow. And I told him, you are going to get in trouble at school, but it's only going to happen one time because we all know, you know, we're here. Bullies like to find people who are weak. Weak people are easy targets.
Yep.
And I told Carter, I said, you are a weak target right now. That's why it keeps happening over and over again. If you don't do anything about it, this kid knows he can push you and you will fall down, and he laughs and giggles and you don't, right? He just knows this happens. If he feels pain next time he pushes you down, he's going to go find the next kid. But I will say this, I don't want him to find the next kid. What I want Carter, our son, and what I want for everybody out there is to not only overcome being the victim of bullying, but being able to have strength to stand up to the bully who picks on somebody else.
Yes.
So-
and perhaps that will stop that bully from doing it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And maybe then it changes the scope of everything. It changes the whole trajectory of what that kid would do the rest of the time through school.
Absolutely.
But it's hard. And now I see so much being a parent looking back at what our parents, they made it seem like it was easy and we are going to teach our kids to do this and we're going to let them feel pain. But there's no way. There's no way. They did it, but that was just as difficult then as it is now for us to do it. And I see how they had to push past that difficulty of wanting to go in and save your kids and protect them and be there for everything and let them feel a little bit of that. But really just to our job is to encourage and arm them with as much self-confidence as they can so that they're able to face those situations. Because here's the thing is that happens in school. And if they don't learn now at this age how to stand up for themselves and grow some inner self-confidence and know that they can stand up to somebody, this same thing repeats itself in other ways as they get older. All of us that have worked, you've all been in a business, right, where there is there's bullies at work, there's mean people, there's mean adults. It never ends, unfortunately. But you get better at handling it, right? So we can handle it now because our parents taught us when we were young how to stand up for ourselves.
Yep.
And I still probably will never fully agree with the way he addresses it with Carter because I can't say those things to Carter, like you need to stand up for yourself and you need to hit back or push back. That's not my role. I don't feel comfortable being like that. But what I have tried to do is not push him to the point of where he won't talk to me. I keep that line of communication as open as possible, and slowly is when he year after year feels safe and confident in telling us everything. And that's my biggest goal, is to keep the communication line so open that he will always come to us no matter what that problem is, no matter how big of a problem it is with a bully at school or what he's done, to provoke it or not, whatever the case may be. We just need to know because we can't help him if we don't know.
I think as parents, it's our responsibility to not be helicopter parents and rescue them every time, is to give them tools, resources, show them from experience from our grandparents and us. And yes, do we live in a totally different time? Absolutely. The stuff that happens in schools today
is
it
completely
wasn't happening
different.
in 1962 with my dad, right? It's completely different. It wasn't happening when we were in school.
No.
Right? It's completely different. But one thing that is consistent is there seems to be, you go watch Leave It to Beaver, right?
Yeah.
This is from the 1950s. There seems to be every, year in school, there is one kid who picks on another kid or picks on a few kids. And it's just that this is the way it works in life. And we didn't write the rule books, right? And we don't even know if this is actually correct. But what I will say, and I think a lot of you, especially guys, can agree with this, is if we had parents that showed us how to defend ourselves, life for us got a lot easier, right? And I think the responsibility is to teach that to our kids, right, that are getting bullied, but also to teach them that they also can stand up to other kids who maybe aren't getting the lessons that you're going to give to your kids or we're going to give to our kids, because someone needs to be a voice for that. And what better role model or what better way to teach your kid to be that voice? Yeah,
and I think, we can all agree, we just want to raise strong kids, strong, confident kids that, we break the cycle now, and eventually your kids, our kids, are going to be the ones that transform the world in a positive way and start breaking those old ways, and the way things happened back then might not happen in the future because of what we're doing today. And again, none of us are experts. I don't think one person out there says, I know exactly how to raise, a great kid. But I think we all have the same goal, and that's great kids that are confident, that don't end up, we always say, that don't end up in our basement one day, when they get older. We want them to be thrust into the world with all the tools possible to live a healthy life.
He's raising Karate Kid. Oh, great.
Okay, but here, everybody can agree that...
They're going to think I'm raising a Rambo.
No.
Yeah. Oh, look at him. He's teaching his kid to go beat the crap out of people.
No, you're not. Oh. Yeah, but you also got shoved in a dumpster.
Oh, I know. Thank you for reminding me.